Today, I am reviewing the Optoma GT2400HDR Full HD projector. If at any time you'd like to explore this product for yourself and grab it at a great price, be sure to check the links below the video. If you are tired of squinting at a small television screen or dealing with the awkward shadows that come from standard throw projectors, the Optoma GT2400HDR might just be the solution you have been waiting for, but there are some trade-offs you need to understand before you commit to the purchase. I've spent the last 3 weeks putting this unit through its paces in a dedicated home theater setup and a high-traffic living room, and I've gathered some very specific thoughts on whether this machine actually lives up to its premium price tag. You can find the current pricing and more details on this model by checking the links below the video, but before you click over, let me break down exactly what you're getting into with this specific laser short throw system. Let us start with the elephant in the room, which is the brightness. Optoma claims 4200 ISO lumens, and while I rarely take manufacturer specifications at face value, this thing is genuinely bright. In my testing, I found that I could comfortably use this projector in a room with the blinds open during the middle of the day. Most projectors in this class wash out completely the moment you turn on a ceiling light, but the GT2400HDR holds its own. If your primary goal is to have a massive screen for sports, casual gaming, or hosting movie nights where you do not want to sit in a pitch-black cave, this is a massive win. However, that brightness comes at a cost to your black levels. Because this is a high-lumen laser engine, the blacks lean more toward a dark charcoal gray than a true, deep cinematic black. If you are a purist who is looking for the kind of contrast you get from a high-end OLED television, you're going to be disappointed here. This projector is designed for punch, saturation, and visibility, not for the subtle shadow details of a moody noir film. The short throw capability is the main selling point for most people, and for good reason. Being able to sit this unit just a few feet away from the wall and still project a massive, crisp image is a game changer for smaller rooms or apartments where you do not want to mount anything on the ceiling. I set this up in a bedroom where space is at a premium, and it was refreshing to have the projector sitting on a low-media console right in front of the screen. The setup process is relatively straightforward, but do keep in mind that short-throw projectors are notoriously unforgiving when it comes to surface imperfections. Because the light hits the screen at such a sharp angle, even the slightest wrinkle in a pull-down screen or a minor bump in your wall will be amplified. If you buy this, you absolutely need to invest in a flat, high-quality fixed-frame screen. If you try to project this onto a textured living room wall, you will see every imperfection, and it will drive you crazy within 10 minutes. Regarding the laser light source, this is where the value proposition really starts to make sense over the long term. The 30,000-hour DuraCore laser engine is a massive upgrade over traditional bulb-based projectors. With a bulb projector, you are constantly worrying about the dimming of the lamp, the cost of replacements, and the slow degradation of color accuracy. With this laser setup, it just works every time you turn it on. There is no warm-up time, which is something I really grew to appreciate. You press the power button, and you have a full brightness image in seconds. It is also remarkably quiet compared to the older lamp-based models I have tested in the past. While you will still hear a faint fan hum in a silent room, it is easily drowned out by the audio from your game or movie. If you are interested in checking out the latest deals, remember you can find the link in the description below. But let's talk about the gaming performance, because this is where the marketing really leans in hard. Optoma markets this as golf simulation ready and low input lag gaming friendly. I tested this with a few fast-paced shooters and some racing games, and honestly, the input lag is impressive. It feels snappy and responsive, which is not something I usually say about projectors. If you are a competitive gamer who plays titles where every millisecond counts, you might still prefer a dedicated gaming monitor, but for 95% of the population, this will feel perfectly fine. The golf simulation aspect is also a huge draw. If you are building a home golf setup, the short throw distance allows you to stand in front of the projector without casting a massive shadow on the screen, which is a common problem with standard throw units. The image is sharp enough that you can easily read the ball data and see the course details without feeling like you are looking at a blurry mess. Now, let us get into the weaknesses, because no product is perfect. The internal audio is, to put it bluntly, an afterthought. It is thin, lacks any real bass, and sounds like a decent laptop speaker from 5 years ago. If you're spending this much money on a high-end laser projector, you should absolutely be budgeting for a dedicated soundbar or a full surround sound system. Do not rely on the built-in speaker for anything other than a quick presentation or a temporary setup. Additionally, the menu system can be a bit clunky. Navigating through the color settings and input configurations feels like a relic from a decade ago. It is functional, sure, but it is not intuitive, and you will likely find yourself frustrated the first time you try to dial in the color calibration. Speaking of color out of the box, it leans a bit cool. You will definitely want to spend some time in the settings to warm up the image and get the skin tones looking natural. The IP6X rated dust protection is a feature that often gets overlooked, but it is a big deal for long-term owners. I have seen so many projectors develop dust blobs on the lens or internal optics over time, which ruins the image quality and requires expensive professional cleaning. By sealing the light engine, Optoma is significantly increasing the lifespan of the unit. This is a practical, utilitarian choice that shows they are thinking about the longevity of the product, not just the initial marketing specs. It makes the unit a much better investment for someone who plans to use it for years rather than just a couple of seasons. So, who is this for? I think the ideal buyer is someone who wants a massive, immersive screen experience without the hassle of a complex home theater installation. If you are a golfer looking to build a simulator, or if you're a casual gamer who wants to play on a 100-plus-inch display without worrying about input lag, this is a very strong contender. It is also great for people who have a bright living room and do not want to turn their space into a dungeon just to watch a movie. If you fall into those categories, you will be very happy with the purchase. You can see the current pricing and availability through the link in the description below if you want to see if it fits your budget. However, who should avoid this? If you are a dedicated cinephile who values deep blacks and high contrast ratios above all else, look elsewhere. You would be better served by a long-throw dedicated home theater projector that sacrifices brightness for image depth. Also, if you do not have the space for a proper fixed frame screen, I would strongly advise against buying a short-throw projector. The image geometry and focus issues you will run into on a wall or a hanging sheet will make you regret the purchase immediately. You really need to be prepared to mount a screen properly to get the best out of this technology. When looking at the value, you have to weigh the cost of the laser engine against the performance limitations. You are paying for the convenience of a short throw, the longevity of a laser, and the brightness for daytime use. If those three things are your priorities, the price is justified. If you are just looking for the best possible image quality for your dollar and you have a light-controlled room, you can get a better picture for less money by going with a traditional long-throw unit. It all comes down to your specific room environment and how you plan to use the device. Another thing to consider is the physical footprint. While it is a short throw, it is not exactly tiny. It has a bit of weight to it, and it does take up a decent amount of space on a shelf. Make sure you measure your media console before you buy it to ensure you have enough room for the projector and the space it needs to breathe. The cooling vents are located on the side, so you need to make sure you are not tucking this into a tight, enclosed cabinet, or you will run into overheating issues. I kept it on an open-air shelf during my testing, and it stayed cool to the touch, but I could definitely see it struggling in a cramped entertainment center. I also want to touch on the HDR performance. It handles HDR content better than most projectors, but keep your expectations in check. Projectors, by their nature, struggle to hit the peak brightness levels required for true HDR impact. You will see a wider color gamut and better highlight detail than you would with a standard dynamic range unit, but it is not going to look like your high-end HDR television. It is a nice improvement, but do not buy this purely because of the HDR label. Buy it for the overall brightness and the laser light source. In terms of build quality, it feels robust. The chassis is solid, the buttons on the top have a nice tactile click, and the lens assembly feels well protected. It does not feel like a cheap piece of plastic, which is a relief given how much these things cost. The remote control is functional, but again, it feels like it belongs to a much cheaper device. It is not backlit, which is frustrating if you are using it in a dark room, and the button layout is a bit cluttered. It is the one area where I felt Optoma cut corners, and I would highly recommend buying a universal remote or using a smart home control system if you want a better user experience. Ultimately, I think the Optoma GT2400HDR is a specialized tool. It is not a perfect all-rounder for every single type of user, but it excels at the things it claims to do well. It is incredibly bright, the laser engine is a massive convenience, and the gaming performance is genuinely impressive for a projector. If you are looking for a way to get a giant, bright image in a room that is not perfectly dark, and you are willing to spend the money to get a high-quality screen to go with it, you're going to be very happy. If you are looking for a perfect cinematic experience in a basement theater, keep looking. Check the link in the description below if you want to explore the current price, but make sure you have measured your space and have a clear idea of how you are going to mount your screen before you hit that buy button. It is a great piece of hardware, provided you know exactly what you're getting into and you have the right environment to let it shine.